Welcome back to the podcast. My name is Joseph Clough, and this is episode 635. And I'm so excited for this guest we're going to have. Bob Doyle is here to show us how we can utilize not just like our thoughts, but like the neuro aspect of it. I can never say the word plasticity. And I'm super excited. It's something I'm super passionate about. So welcome, my friend. Great to have you here. It's an absolute honor and a privilege. Thank you for being here.
It's great to be here. And congratulations to you for doing 634 episodes of a podcast. I know what kind of commitment that takes, and that is pretty impressive.
Yeah, it is taking a long time. I don't know if you know, we've just last month, we hit 11 million downloads total.
That's quite an achievement. Congrats.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you ever so much. So as I said, I'm so pleased and thankful for you for being here. So if you wouldn't mind, I'll just say to everyone, I remember watching The Secret. Like, when does The Secret come out?
So 2005 is when it started leaking out online. And then 2006, I think the DVD came out. Most people started watching it in 2006.
Yeah, so I remember that. I was kind of like, I'm so pleased that they became mainstream. There were some things I wanted to like get into a little bit about that as well, because I think it did miss some aspects. And I think that you'll be able to simply answer those. So maybe we'll get into that pretty soon. But tell me a little bit about yourself, like what you do and what we're going to really be speaking about today.
Well, so as you mentioned, my role in The Secret suggests that I've been in the law of attraction conversation, and I have been for 20 years or so. And understanding the law of attraction, having my aha moments around it profoundly changed my life at a pivotal time. And so in my excitement, enthusiasm, and I knew enough about getting online and sharing information that I put together this program called Wealth Beyond Reason, which was later found by the producers of The Secret. And that's how I ended up in there. So a lot of passion around this conversation. However, what I started to see and could not deny was that people were spending so much time focused on the law of attraction, like figuring it out and getting it right and not doing it wrong. Is their vision board right? How many times a day all of that stuff, which has nothing to do with what's really important in transformation, which is bottom line. And as a hypnotist, we have to rewire our brain, like literally get in there and change the biology of our brain. If our behavior is going to change consistently enough for us to attract, if you will, or to get different results in our life. I was just finding that so many people were too obsessed with the law of attraction instead of what's really, really important. Who do I need to be to have the life I want? And when you be that, the law of attraction just takes care of itself. So I have all but stopped teaching law of attraction techniques, principles, all of it, because I just feel like people get so stuck on it that they're not getting the work done.
And do you think that then breeds kind of scarcity, which then goes to the opposite of actually attracting what we want? So if we're like so making sure everything's just right, being so rigid, it actually causes us to create more resistance in the process of the flow.
There's so much built-in resistance when you approach it that way. And you're also trying to use the law of attraction to change the world to your vision. And that is just not how it works. Your world will change when the lens through which you see that world changes. And that lens is determined by how your brain is wired. It's basically your autopilot programming that happened, just unconsciously, but certainly in those first 7 years of life, when you got your basic belief system in place by your parents or whoever. And that's how you see the world. And that's your truth. But it's not the same truth as mine or the person down the street or whatever, who all has different wiring. So it becomes like, what's the truth? There really isn't. It's all about meaning. Mm-hmm. So the reality is created when you give meaning to this moment. And the meaning that you give it is based on your wiring. So if you don't like this moment, you need to create different meaning. And that means changing your wiring.
Yeah, I love that you said like the first 7 years, because I think that in sociology, you say that's like the imprint part of our life. So we're just like a blank slate or a sponge, just absorbing everything. And then as we go through the world, as you also said, like our perceptions are projections. So whatever we perceive to be true about our beliefs, our identities, and all that aspect, it shows up as that mirror back to us. So
Right.
you're saying when it comes to then, just to like use the context of hypnosis, like if we start to use and work with that, the unconscious of like the rewiring of that with consistency, that's when we'll start to see something magical start to pop up.
See, people just need to understand that this is transforming your life, transforming who you are, is really no different than learning a new language or when we learn to walk and talk and all those basic things. We had to teach our brain new things, and over time, new neural pathways were formed. And the more solid they got, the more effortless this new thing was. But on our way to that, we fell down. We got things wrong. We quote unquote failed, but we weren't thinking about it as failing. We just got up and kept walking. Why? Because it was non-negotiable. But we look at our personal transformation as some wouldn't it be nice kind of thing if I could do this. And there's just something about it that it's not the same. Now, a lot of that is the fault of the personal development industry, who has packaged up personal transformation to fall into 7 days, 30 days, 60 days, whatever it is, and set all these unrealistic expectations because we don't know how long it's going to take for a person to rewire. We have no idea how complex that web is that drives their autopilot their autopilot actions, which gets those results. It takes time and it takes the consistency.
And people tend to jump from one thing to another. Like if they don't see something showing up immediately within a few days or a week or a couple of weeks, they're like, oh, must mean, they put the meaning to it to go, it must not work.
Yes.
Therefore, I'm a failure or I'm broken. I'm going to try something else.
Correct. And it's that whole thing, like, and another conversation that a lot of the law of attraction people have is the universe just doesn't want it for me, which is so much crap. Like the universe, of course, wants, if the universe is going to want something. Now, the universe is an ocean of energy, right? And we're anthropomorphizing it to some extent with it. It wants this, but it is here to expand, 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 and experience. It's infinite possibility. And we are, and this is no woo-woo conversation. It's just, hopefully it's just easy to understand. We are an energetic extension of the universe. It's all energy. We know this. And so we are the feelers, if you will, for the universe. The universe gets to experience itself through us and our senses and our emotions and everything. And so we're born and we have this passion to do something. And we get these really great feelings when we think about it. That's of course, this is why we're here, to expand and grow and have those feelings. So, and we have everything we need in our brain to program our own behavior to get those results. But if in years 0 through 7, we got the idea that this doesn't happen to people like us, or money is hard to come by, or this is for somebody, whatever it is, that's what we believe. There's no truth to it, except to the extent that we keep telling ourselves that, because it limits our ability to take different action that will get different results. So if we just took on learning how to be who we want to be, like we took on something else that was non-negotiable, and just understood that it took action. It's not making a vision board and staring at it. The vision board needs to lead you into action. It needs to inspire you to be the person who will have those things. You don't become that person when you get the things. That's ridiculously magical thinking. You will get those, and you wouldn't, it just is, this is so logical. So the reason I've basically tossed out having the law of attraction conversation with people too much is because there's so many weird questions that are sidetracked, and it doesn't have the same scientific basis that we can point to for everybody, that the brain can change. So if you just know that the brain can change, then the next question is, how do I want to change it? And that's the work I do, is help people decide that, and then do the consistent action that it requires over time to get that rewiring done.
Okay, so we kind of make that decision, we put that consistency. Could you maybe paint a picture in our minds of the neuroplasticity? I can never say that word. Like, what does that mean? What is it? And how does that have an effect if we do become consistent?
Well, neuroplasticity is simply the ability for our brain to change. That's just the word that just describes that ability, that our brain can change. And as we repeat thoughts and ideas over and over and over again, we start to grow these little neural pathways. These are structures in our brain. And this is our programming. This is our wiring. And the more that we feed it the same information, the stronger those things get, and the stronger our sense that this is what reality and truth is becomes. And normally we just ease through life, and we get new situations brought to us, and we make decisions based on our wiring. We think we're making new decisions, but we're really just making decisions based on our wiring. What do we make this mean based on? But sometimes we get new situations. We learn new things about life. We have new experiences. And so our we have different thoughts about things on a repeated basis now, and then new neural pathways form. And over the course of time, we literally shift who we're being and how we see the world. If anyone has any doubt on this, just think about who you were 5 years ago, or 10 or 15, and you can see that there are probably some significant differences in how and who you're being. Obviously some common thread, but I know I look at some things, and like I said 15 years ago, and I go, like, how did I rationalize that behavior? How did I make this mean that, it's like you can't even imagine it, because now my wiring is different. I process, that's all foreign information to me. Basically, I remember it, but I don't embody it like I used to, because those neural pathways were neglected, because I had new thoughts, new ideas. So they just don't have the power anymore. And that's how it works.
So I know that you've got the quiz, right? So the quiz will allow you to, explain a bit about the quiz. I mean, I've
Sure.
been on it and looked at the questions, everything looks really amazing, but how does that, identifying these kind of aspects of the quiz really work? And how is it beneficial to me and everyone who's listening to this?
Right. So if you're going to change your autopilot behavior, you need to recognize it. You need to be able to see when it's in action, because if you're not looking for it, you won't notice it. You're just being how you are, and you're not thinking about autopilot. But when we can get you into noticing your autopilot behavior, particularly in terms of how it stops you or slows you down in your progress of goals, then that's extremely valuable information, because at that point, when you start to recognize it, now you have the ability to make a conscious other choice and start replacing that autopilot behavior with something that is conscious and fueled by inspiration and motivation and strong vision and passion, not just I'm easing through my day. That's why we can do this faster than taking 20 years, to just let it happen. Normally, we get to be intentional. We get to use our brain and vigorously go through the rewiring process on our own consciously whenever we want.
Fantastic. I mean, I love that. I mean, something I talk about is like the sedated mind. We're very much asleep to what's really going on. And we've got to awaken. We've got to awaken, actually I would say, like, the unconscious to become conscious. So you've got to be, number one, you've got to be consciously aware of what's really happening. What is our reality showing back, in order to then change? And then get that conscious competence to then get the unconscious competence as well.
Yeah, we're looking for the areas in our life that we're not loving. And so what can we do to change that? Is it financial? Is it relationship? And then who do I need to be to have that? What does that look like? And now look, a lot of people have a problem even conceptualizing that. And that's part of the work we do too, is helping them get past that block of I don't know. So we basically look at what you don't, what behavior isn't serving you, and we start working on that. But anyway, the quiz tells people their autopilot behavior by putting them into what we call a transformation personality type. There's nothing wrong with these types, and it doesn't mean that if you are this type that you sabotage your results. This is just a place to look if you're not getting where you're going at the rate you think you should be going. So if you understand that, I'm this type and this has this trait, yes, I absolutely do that. Now, when you do it, you're more in tune with it. It's like you've activated your reticular activating system, and now you're on the lookout on a deeper level for that behavior that you now know stops you. So that's the first thing. The number one lesson I teach, or the skill, if you will, is to become aware. It is all about awareness. It's about knowing how to become present, and to look at your situation unemotionally. To, when you go into autopilot and you recognize it, you get to just sort of leave your body for a second and just look, without judgment, without time, without age, just observe. Here I am, I'm about to do this behavior, which I always do. And you may or may not know why you do it. It doesn't really matter. It can help, but what do I want to do instead to get a different result? And now you go do it. Again, knowing what those responses are, that's part of the work I help people do, so they don't go in there and go, okay, I see it, but now what? Because that's really what stops people. They're not clear. What causes people to resist transformation sometimes and sabotage themselves is because they're just trying to change this. they don't know what the new one looks like. And so giving up their old stories, for example, which is a key part of this. You can't keep telling yourself the same stories, because every time you do, you're just biologically strengthening that as your truth. So, but people, if they don't know where they're going and why and who they want to be and why, then giving up their stories is giving up a part of their identity. And it's guided them. It's their reason why they haven't. It's everything. Unless they have something to go to, it's just like jumping into a big void. They need their stories, but you have to get rid of them if you're going to really transform.
Absolutely. And I love how you said, like, it just reaffirms it. Like, a lot of the work that I do, a lot of people focus on just symptoms, the things which show up in their life.
Mm-hmm.
But most of the time, I see how, like, our identity in the world will dictate our capacity or dictate our behaviors, and then how we show up in our environment. So if we really want to be awakening to what's really happening, we've got to identify who we are and, like, is this a story that is mine? Because sometimes that story can be generational, society, media, especially in today. Like, we are telling ourselves stories, almost hypnotizing ourselves into that story by that repetition. And what you're saying is that actually has the wiring of the biology as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And the thing is, we can analyze where the story came from, whether it's ours, but we don't have to.
Yeah.
We just need to know it's a story, and let's come up with a better one. One that really feels empowering, like in these situations where we always dread going in because we always feel like whatever afterward. How would we love to feel, and what would that look like? And we get to rehearse that every day. That's part of the process I work with people, is every day, at least twice a day, they are actively visualizing themselves being this new way in familiar situations, so that when they get into those situations, they have a behavior to try on, something to do. And when they do that different behavior, guess what? It's not going into a void. It's in the presence of other people who now are forced to respond differently. And that's when the energy begins to shift. You are at cause for the energetic shift that allows the universe, if you will, to bring you, if you will, the things you're trying to attract, if you will, right? But it's all super logical and practical. Different behavior will get different responses. Act with behavior that is in alignment with the successful, happy, passionate version of you, and you will start to get those results.
Yeah. So we're really getting out of all the noise and the stuff, and we're just breaking it down into real, tangible steps that, if you replicate, will start to then create that consistency. I mean, I always love the term, like, discipline actually creates freedom. Sometimes we've got to be disciplined in our practice, in our ritual, or like our gratitude or our visualization, because those become suggestions to our biology, right? They become suggestions, and over time that will then start to lead the pathway.
But the problem is that because of our wiring, we are not consistent. We get excited and we commit for a bit, but rewiring takes as long as it takes.
Yeah.
And you don't get frustrated in the middle and say it's taking too long. What do you think that's going to do? It's certainly not going to get you there. You can recognize that that's autopilot behavior and thinking because you've learned that it should take a certain amount of time or whatever, but you just recognize it as nonsense noise. And of course, you're going to get there if you keep taking the action. So again, it's getting rid of all the sort of the magical thinking and the insinuated stuff, and let's just be as practical as we possibly can about this. And again, that the knowing your types helps you to do that too, because some of these types are based in intellect. Like one of the types is the skeptic, which is how I would have tested had that test been around. You know, I wanted to transform. I wanted to believe this whole idea of we create our realities and stuff, but come on, I need some science here. Show me something. I can't just take that leap, but because my wiring was formed from being the son of a school teacher and just very practical. So any of this metaphysical stuff took a lot more than just good feelings for me to get into, right? So the skeptic, but that type, the skeptic very often gets into the habit of saying no to everything, right? Mm-hmm. Or instead of asking how something could work for them, their default question is, why won't this work for me? Okay. And so our advice to that type is to ask yourself the other question. You're still using your intellect. You're still using logic. You don't have to, because the skeptic doesn't like to be proven wrong or to look stupid, right? That's part of it for this particular aspect of the type. And so, but there's nothing wrong with evaluating how something could work for you. So that's for a type that is very logical. On the other end of the spectrum, You've got the wizard type, which is all that magical thinking. Like, if I just do the vision board and just, feel it, then that's all I need to do. And I understand why they got that idea. I mean, it has heavily suggested in the film and other pure law of attraction stuff, but you got to extrapolate logic a little bit here. There is all the wonderful energetic stuff that's going on, but you don't need to understand it or try to manipulate it or master it or activate it. It's going, trust me. You just go be you, and the energy will take care of itself. So those are the two sort of opposite end spectrum types. I can throw the other two out if you'd like.
Go for it. Before you do that, by the way, for everyone, please go to tptquiz.com so you can be a part of that. It's going to be a great experience for you to become conscious of your personality types and so on, what you can do to begin to get the results you want. So please go ahead and do that. And that means as you're listening to this, again on maybe the replay, it will just start to make sense. But yeah, please go ahead and do it. Let me know maybe a little bit the in-between types.
Yeah, so the another one, actually the most popular one, is the seeker. And before we started recording, we talked about that a little bit. And that's the person who is all about personal development, very committed to transformation. So committed, in fact, that they try every freaking thing that comes along that seems good, and it's, their heart is in the right place. It's like they really believe that they need to go do this other thing. But what they're not acknowledging is that if you started this process with this approach or this philosophy and you stop it, now all that wiring that you started is like, depending on the approach this next one's going to take, it may just not, wasted time. And if you don't get there in enough time with this one, you'll go to the next one and the next one and the next one. You'll learn a ton of stuff. You could teach this stuff, and a lot of people in this situation do, by the way. But are you getting the results? Is your brain rewired? And that's where you just have to be honest with yourself. And the seeker just needs to settle on something. If it resonated with you that day and you could see it working for you, just keep going. Just understand that there's a little bit of a sabotage thing going on there. Like, why won't you complete? There might be something there that's like, what if I did? They're scared. You've become the seeker. You've become the person who's trying to get there. What about being the person who's there? What would that look and feel like? So that's the seeker. And then the last one, and these aren't in any really order, but the last one is tough because there's a lot of emotion tied to it. It's the people pleaser. And it's the person who is, again, very committed to their transformation. They've been inspired. They want to be the best version of themselves. But as soon as they start trying to be that out in the world or let people know about it, they start to get the blowback from mom or dad or the neighbor or the coworker who gives them the look. Basically, they're threatened by your vision in some way. Their wiring is activated, and they're telling you why you shouldn't, couldn't, won't, whatever, And then what the people pleaser does is stop to make sure that everybody else is comfortable in one way or the other. They literally are throwing the life that they are here to live away, so that with the impression that they're making other people comfortable. Number one, those people aren't comfortable already. You're not making them. It's just, they're uncomfortable. That's why they're telling you what you can't do. And of course, if you don't go for your dreams, if you don't rewire your behavior, if you don't get those results, if you don't realize that passion that is pulling you day by day, where's your life? That's why you're here, is to go do those things. So go take that action and let those people be uncomfortable. The best thing you can do for them is to succeed. And then maybe they'll be inspired. Don't get attached to that, though. Maybe they will, maybe they won't. But you're not serving anybody by staying stuck. But anyway, that's the people pleaser just needs that wake-up call. And they need to understand that, yes, this is going to be an emotional roller coaster. But are you going to throw your life away just not to have that? Because that slow burn of wasting your life is way worse than that little roller coaster of going through evolving relationships and whatever, the discomfort. It's uncomfortable. Growth is uncomfortable. Falling down when we learned to walk was uncomfortable. Making mistakes, learning to read and write, it's always a little uncomfortable. You should embrace and celebrate the discomfort because it means you're right there, ready to grow.
Yeah, I mean, two things right there. So that personality type, I don't want to generalize, but a lot of people pleasing. So I'm really pleased that you brought that up. And really, it's okay this is a challenge, right? It doesn't have to be this thing that we just give up. Like, I always love the analogy of, like, if a child was learning to walk, if they didn't do it 10 times, the parent doesn't go, well, just quit already, you're never going to do it. No, it's just inbuilt. You just do the work. It doesn't have to be crazy hard, a bit of discipline, but still have, I always like to have fun with transformation. I don't think it's got to be all crazy traumatic, in my opinion, but like, see it as a process. It is simplistic. It is a step-by-step way of being, but you got to just awaken to that. So I'm really pleased you brought those two aspects up.
Yes, because look, the learning, that journey part, the things that you have to learn, the things you have to go through, they are such a critical part of it. And you have to go through them to become that person. And it's not because that's the way the universe, it's just logical to have the knowledge and experience that you're going to need to have the results that you're looking to have. You're going to need to have the knowledge and experience. So again, you celebrate it. You don't avoid it.
Yeah, and I know for me personally, I don't actually know much how you got into this, and I want to be respectful of your time, by the way. But I'm super thankful. I used to have crazy blushing anxiety, fear, imposter syndrome wasn't around back then, but I'm so thankful that I had that because it allowed me to awaken to what I was about to become. So to enjoy that journey.
Yes.
Okay, awesome. So
I think the imposter syndrome. The imposter syndrome is a huge thing. And because I, as a coach, I deal with a lot of people who want to be entrepreneurs, who want to get their message out there. And while they're not necessarily telling me that they have the imposter syndrome, it's one of those things that after years of dealing with people, you can just tell that these people are not owning who they're saying they are. They're just saying it, but it's not getting in there because there's something undetectable. And I see it, you can see it in speakers, they get up there and they do their thing and you're going, yeah, they got a lot of energy, they got a lot of charisma, but the confidence isn't there. They haven't fully become that person yet. And so I always, part of the key part of my journey was, and it was a huge turning point, and I tell this all the time, was that when I first started sharing law of attraction information, I was just facilitating other people's information, and I was fine to do that. But at some point I decided, no, who I want to be is somebody who can really communicate these principles to as many willing, open minds as possible in an effective way that's going to stick, And that's then who I became in all of my email correspondences. When I talked about what I did with people, I am this. And that's when, if you want to call them downloads, but that's when the program went from this little program of 5 ebooks and a couple of things I did to this massive freaking encyclopedia of law of attraction, which is what got the attention, like I said, of the secret people. Now, I would not advise people to jump into a program like mine anymore because it's too much. It's too much. And the thing is, it lit me up so much. I thought, well, if everybody understood the science like I did, then of course they'll get it. But that's just me. That's my wiring. That's my type, right? Yeah. So, and yes, there were people who I reached for sure, with the way that I did it. But this way, with talking neuroplasticity, I can talk to anybody, and it crosses all the belief. There's no belief, no metaphysic piece. There's just none of it. It's just like, hey, man. It's the most natural thing for your brain to change, but because of your wiring and because maybe of the support system you may or may not have right now, there's going to be challenges that make you stop. You're going to rationalize it. It's going to seem reasonable. I don't have time. They can't, point out. It's going to make sense for you to stop unless you have a very strong support system, accountability, and something to do every day to get you there. And that's why. So that's the work I do now is I facilitate that for people. I give them that environment that they need with the people that they need, with the energy that they need and the tools that they need to go through, because you're going to have emotional eruptions, right? You're in it and you're going to get triggered and you're going to recognize it consciously, but your body chemistry is just going to be flooding you, and it's going to be harder, even if you're in autopilot, to override it. But tools like EFT and other things that I'm sure you're aware of, resistance release techniques, emotional techniques, however, those are great. And I give all my folks those things so that they can deal with that in the moment and they don't just give up and cave to the old wiring, because that's what's going to be so easy. So unless you have that support system, the personal development industry's success rate statistics are abysmal.
Yes, they are.
There's a lot of it, out there, but the success rates are abysmal. And it's just because of this. It's just because people don't complete the wiring process. And that is always 100% because of their wiring and the decisions they make to stop and the reasons they do. Change the wiring, change your results. You can seriously change your life.
Yeah, I'm in 100% agreement. And unfortunately, because of the industry, we can, especially if you're like one of the personality types of people pleaser, you take that on personally. So I read that ebook, it didn't work, therefore I'm broken. Where really, like, that's not the case. No one's broken. We can always get back to the true self. And one of the questions I'm going to quickly ask is, when you said about the personality types, by starting to get back into this, are you able to, because we're not always just one, I guess, we kind of like, we split, we have a bit
Oh,
of
yeah.
this, bit of that.
Oh, yeah.
Once you make that change, does everything kind of up level a little bit?
Well, it's not noticing, it's not about changing. Like I don't want a wizard to not be a wizard or a skeptic to not be a skeptic.
Exactly.
It's just, I mean, you are who you are. And again, this isn't labeling you as this is strictly in the context of personal transformation. I don't want anybody to think that this is like the disc or something and
Sure.
it's some deep thing. This is just behavioral stuff. But once you notice it, yes, then you can start to use the strengths of that type to help you in your rewiring process. I mean, all of it can be a superpower, right? Your skepticism can be a superpower. Your belief in the sort of the magic of the universe, the wizardry, the ritual, all of those things can work in your favor on this endeavor, but they can also go against you if you're not conscious of how that's happening.
Yeah, I love it. I love it because we don't want to be pigeonholed, but it's a great way to just be conscious of what our personality types are. So then we can start the retraining of the
Yeah,
brain.
just to be conscious and to make different choices.
Awesome, Bob. So is there anything else you'd like to share with us? I mean, once again, everyone go to tptquiz.com. We put it in all the links on, for those listening on the podcast. We do this on YouTube, Twitch, Twitter, Facebook. So it's in a lot of the links there. But is there anything else you'd like to leave us with? Anything.
Well, the quiz, if they take the quiz, they're going to learn about our Boundless Living Challenge. And that is more specifically how I work with people. We definitely do not need to get into the details here, but that's where I do the work that I do with people to help them do the rewiring process. And of course, if they want to know more about me and other things that because obviously, you know, I coach, I speak, I love to do virtual training, those types of things around this, they can visit meetbobdoyle.com. That's all things Bob are there, including things that aren't necessarily related to this particularly, but get a good sense of stuff. But I think I just really, the message here is so simple. And that's what I'm really trying to, I mean, we can talk about types and the nuances and neuroplasticity and the wiring, but you know, I don't, if people want to learn about the parts of the brain and all that stuff, they can learn that anywhere, right? But it's not important. And I don't want people to get so obsessed with that like they did with the intricate workings of the law of attraction. You're focusing in the wrong area. Who do you want to be? It's like, so I'm inviting people to really understand that their brain is ready to go. It's ready. No matter how old you are, it's still changing. It might not be as plastic as when you were 0 to 7, but with consistency, you can change it. So, and I challenge you and invite you to dream big, to think big, because that's what's gonna push the growth. Because no matter whatever you think is huge right now, as you grow, you'll have a new thing. It's all you're just remember your truth is plastic too.
Yeah. No, I love it. Like the beliefs change, our values change, our taste changes over the years. Like sometimes we like something when we're younger, now we don't like it as an adult. So
Yeah.
we are totally moldable and totally not broken. We can start to awaken from that sedation and realize actually we are plastic, we can modify, and we can get the life that we desire. So
And it's why we're here. It's why we're here. It's why we're here. It's why we are here. It's not like this. We were created and it'd be really cool if you could have a life you wanted. No, we're created so that we can have the life we want. So for some of us it takes, you know, getting out of an environment where you're not taught that, and maybe you see The Secret or you read a book and you go, wait, there's this, right? But then once you see that, you have to commit to knowing now you know something new, you know more, you know there's more possible. And if you decide not to act on that, it's your old wiring saying, no, I can't know. But now you know the truth is out there. You can grow, you can be better, you can be whatever, but you just got to be consistent and know why you're doing it.
absolutely. Well, Bob, I know, like I said, time is precious and everything. It's been an absolute honor and privilege to have you here. And once again, everyone, for the podcast and the app, tptquiz.com. I'll put it in the description of the podcast and the app as well. But it's been an absolute pleasure in every single way. Thank you for being here, my friend.
Thank you, Joseph. It's been my pleasure.
Okay, I'll speak to you soon.
All right.
Okay, Bob, you're still live with everyone right now, but that's just like the end of our live recording. So you are
So now
still...
it's the cool people. It's
Yeah,
just
there's
the cool
people.
here.
Yeah,
Okay.
so just don't say anything. Don't say anything bad. I wish you wouldn't, of course. But I just wanted to just like take a few moments. I mean, I don't know if there'll be crazy cool questions. It's probably just going straight to the quiz right now. We've got quite a good few numbers on this live. So if you do have any quick questions, feel free to post them in here. But I just want to take a moment once again to say thank you ever so much for being here and showing up for us. And I know a lot of people just get trapped in the noise. They get trapped in like the expectations. Like I said, a lot of my listeners, I would say, would probably fall into the people pleasing and therefore the sacrificing. So I'm really pleased that you brought that up. And yeah, it's going to be fantastic for people to go there. So tptquiz.com.
That's right, ladies and gentlemen. 60 seconds and absolutely free of charge.
There we go. We should have said that. 60 seconds to be able to do that, right?
Yeah, normally I do. Normally I hit that over and over.
I'll put it in the description. Don't worry. I'd say it take 60 seconds or less. Okay, my friend. Well, thank you for being here once again. I will let you go because I know your time is precious. And if there's any questions, I'll just point them back to the quiz because I'm sure the quiz will probably answer more than that.
It will be a gateway to the answers for sure. Yeah.
Absolutely. Okay, everyone, thank you for tuning in live, and we'll speak to you all soon. Many thanks and goodbye.